Yo, what's up? It's Llama here from the No Drama Llama podcast, and this is episode number 1, Equal Means Equal. So today we're going to be discussing, first off we're going to start with Freedom from Beyonce, song she put out in 2016, very significant to her career, I would say. And later on we're going to be talking about Truth Hurts by Lizzo, a song that came up in 2019, was originally released in 2017. And after that, we're going to be watching or listening to me talk about More Than Mean, Women in Sports Face Harassment. It's a little video we watched in class. And finally, we're going to end it out with the movie Equal Means Equal. It's a very touching movie. It talks about how women in all aspects of life are just they're just completely discriminated against. So yeah, we're going to be talking about that. So, let's start off the conversation with Freedom by Beyonce. I'm going to link this song in the description so y'all can listen along if you want to before or after this podcast. So what we got out of that is, what I got out of it is that Beyonce is just trying to say that many women, they try to mask the world. They try to make the world a better place, and because of them trying to make it a better place, they deserve the same freedom that men deserve. I mean, everybody's trying to make the world a better place, so why don't they get the same treatment? It's one thing she's arguing, and also she's trying to break away from society. Like, she's trying to be her own woman. She doesn't want to be defined by the change of society and be stereotyped as the average woman. And so a little backstory here, this album Lemonade by Beyonce, it was talking about her marriage with Jay-Z. And so Jay-Z kind of cheated on her. So, she wanted to make it right, but she wanted to do it a different way than most people do. Because she assumed that in society most women would just go out and try to say that the dude's just wrong and everything, and I think Beyonce went a good way around this, and she tried to say that, you know what, I'm still his man though, and I'm gonna keep being his man no matter what, and he might have hurt me, but I'm gonna use that pain to help me become successful. And that's what she did. She turned lemons to lemonade, as she would say, and it was a lot more emotional, this album, for her. You can tell, Beyonce, the queen, she does her own thing. So that's all from the Freedom. So next we're going to be talking about Truth Hurts by Lizzo. So the main chorus is, men aren't great until they have to be great. I mean, that really just describes the song. Men are going to do what they want until... She says that, men are going to have to do their own thing until they can, until anything challenging comes along, and then they kind of like weep and don't protect the woman or anything, So, Lizzo's just trying to challenge men to be better people, and it's a good thing. I think this song's really got a good message, It's really just talking about how, women just need to stand up for themselves too, but not too much, and just but mainly it's about men, how men need to treat women. It's a big thing today, especially in a lot of type of rap songs and everything. There's a lot of defaming women, just making them look bad and everything, and degrading their bodies and everything. So Lizzo says, if I'm with a guy, I'm gonna do my own thing, So it's a two-way street for her. It's not like you get to decide what everything I do. I get to do stuff, you get to do stuff. It's both sides of the street. So that's Truth Hurts. Really good song. Also will be linked in the description. This next one I do not have the link to, but I can try to see if I can find it. It's More Than Mean, women in sports face harassment. So basically, if I can remember this right, okay, so these were some sports writers, female sports writers, that were very good at their job, and they were being discriminated against just based on their gender. So there was a lot of guys in the workplace, and they were being discriminatory, but it was more of people watching on television and in the newspaper taking their jabs at women. It was just terrible names that were called, and I don't know how you would be able to look at yourself as a guy and call these women that. Like, one thing, I mean, this is kind of widespread. It's not just women and all, but just social media has become a place for great things and a place for just dark, deep people to just talk negatively about others without any consequences or anything, and because no one's gonna know who they are if they make fake accounts and everything. So it's just tough, man, because you can't really do anything about it, but it's terrible, and you hate to see it because, I mean, the words like the S word, I mean, just some of these words that they were using, just terrible. And it's not like they did anything wrong. I mean, if they would have did like, okay, if they would have maybe had some case where, you know, they cheated on their guy or something, maybe, just maybe you would have a case for it, but they were just women in the workplace just trying to do their job. So, I mean, that's tough, you know, you can't blame them for that. Okay, yeah, and that's all I have to really say about that one. That one's kind of, yeah, I mean, actually, let me put one more point in there that, you know, trailblazers are always going to be looked bad about until after the fact. So, so these women that are trying to take men's jobs in the sports industry right now are going to be looked on as like terrible people, and just, I mean, it's always hard for the first one. The first one's always the hardest one, the first wave, but I truly believe that once people in society like socially accept women in sports, I think it would be a great thing, and it would just be something that it's just should happen. Okay, that's all I'm going to talk about that one. And lastly, equal means equal. This was kind of the big movie that we watched, kind of the main point I want to bring up. So there was the war. Okay, so this is the war for women's rights. So first off, we have, I'm going to look up, we have the commentator. Her name is Kamal Lopez. She was a very good commentator, by the way. Camila Lopez. She was the director and political activist who appeared in such films as Any Day Now, I Heart, Huckabees, and Born in East LA. She's 55, but she seemed really cool. But this movie, I mean, it just hit hard. It was a deep movie. I'm gonna see if I can find it. I mean, I don't know if you can. I'm looking up right now. I can find the trailer, but you might have to find it. They have it on Prime Video, so if you have Prime, Amazon Prime, you can find it there. So there was a couple of different categories that Camilla kind of touched on. The big one being money. So women generally, this is just common knowledge, is women generally get paid way less than men. Most of the time it's between 23 to 46 cents, so that's very bad. Like, I mean, women definitely deserve more money, but there's just more discrimination in the workplace, and there's less opportunity to get higher up positions for women. A lot of women are getting these low-end jobs that aren't making as much, and it's hard for them to get promoted because one thing, I think guys, they just have like a power struggle. They always want to be, a lot of guys, I mean, not all guys, but a lot of guys always want to be the dominant person, and that's something, I think in society we need to just change. Like, the fact that guys think that they should be the master in everything they do is just a terrible kind of mindset. I think everybody should try, if they can, to be as selfless as possible. That's kind of why I believe we're here, is to help others, And some guys just want to take the power, some girls too, but mostly guys want to take power and just rule people because they want clout or recognition, and they want to be in the history books. And that's one thing, guys, history is basically written by dudes, so that's one thing. So we talked about the Walmart v. Dukes case. Let me look up when that was, but basically it was this woman suing Walmart because it was Betty Dukes. She sued Walmart in, 2011 was when it was decided, so I think that was a couple years. The case took a couple years. So basically it was, so Dukes tried to sue Walmart for discrimination towards females in the workplace and how they did not get promoted. But one thing that was proven is that women only have 180 days to bring up this case, or anybody, discrimination cases in the workplace, which is absurd because 180 days is nearly not long enough. It's only half a year, so you really, you're kind of in the workplace, but you're really not doing too much in there. It's not like that you could have gotten promoted or you're making less money. So at that point, at least, I think once you get to the year or 2 year point, then you get to know your coworkers and everything. You get to figure out the gist of what's going on. But just for me, like college, going first semester, that was only half a year, even less, and I still don't know what's going on. So you got to figure it out. You don't know everybody. You don't know what their stories are. So, anyways, the Supreme Court, which has been very not very helpful to women right now. They tried to support the companies. That's what they're doing right now. And so they used the intermediate scrutiny test for women, but in cases where it's a race one, it's strict scrutiny. So what that means is intermediate's a lot easier to get off on for the companies. It's about 50% chance for them to get off. So that's in the 14th Amendment. And while strict one, it's a lot harder for companies to do it. So Title 9's also, or Title 9's a big one. Big thing, let's see. Ledbetter v. Goodyear. Let's see, wait 1 sec. Let me look it up real quick. Yeah, actually, is it Title 7? Nah. I don't think so. Well, actually, it's Title 7, my bad. But yeah, we're talking about the Ledbetter versus Goodyear. So that was actually the case where the 180 days rule applied. That was in law for a while until Obama came, and one of his first legislation moves was to have the Ledbetter Act, Fair Pay Act. So that was good for women. It tried to help them a little bit, but it's not too much of a help, but it's a start. So one thing big that women are trying to do right now is the ERA, which is the Equal Rights Amendment, which is absurd that this hasn't been passed yet. But so basically, women are not even mentioned in the Constitution as equals to men. It doesn't say anything. The 14th Amendment really doesn't do too much to help women. It has a little bit of stuff in there, but for the most part, the 14th Amendment does not help, especially the Equal Protection Clause. But so ERA was passed by Congress. It was passed by Congress, but it didn't have enough states until a couple weeks or a week ago now, where Virginia signed it. But we'll see how that goes, because it was definitely late on the deadline. So we'll see what they say about that. And lastly, about money, 70% of people in poverty are women, which actually shocked me, because usually when you think of somebody in poverty, you think of a homeless man, on the street. You don't think of a homeless woman usually. So it's crazy to think that, and also that women have the children. So it's crazy to think that some of these children, I mean, it's not really crazy to think, because it always happens, but there's a lot of children that are not growing up they're growing up in poverty, and that's tough. So next we're going to be talking about international women's rights. So U.S. is really far behind for most things in terms of women's rights, which should be unacceptable, considering that we try to be the forward nation, But there's a lot of women. So across the world, there's a lot of women, and especially children, little girls, that are being used in sex slavery and human trafficking. And it's a terrible thing. I mean, there's a lot of people in the Middle East especially, and they just use those kids as as their bodies. They just use their bodies. They don't even think about the little girl or anything. And we'll get back to that later. But also, there's a lot of child soldiers, which would probably freak me out. I mean, think about that. A little kid's going to be on the battlefield. It's kind of crazy, especially with our standards today. One thing that was good for women's rights maybe was welfare, but it's been getting cut down a lot. So there's also in 1996, there was a time limit on how much women could work. So basically putting a cap on how much women can make in welfare. So it's kind of terrible, but I think there definitely needs to be a change to where women can just make as much money as they can possibly make. I mean, if they have children, that's a tough role. I mean, a lot of children are expensive, man, I'll be honest. So yeah, you gotta figure that out. Anyways, next category was domestic violence. There's a ton. I got almost 10,000 kids just in the U.S. alone are abused and turned away from shelters daily. Wow. That's a lot of children. There's so many children that we don't even have places to put them. I mean, that's sad. Anyways. Next, we're going to be talking about domestic violence. That's in a relationship. And most people don't take domestic violence seriously because they assume that, if you're married, you should be good, And it's not always the case. Sometimes men have a bad day at work, or women have a bad day at work, and they come home and they don't know how to let their anger out. And that's terrible. You need to be able to, there's problems with people if they don't know how to cope with things. They got to find another thing to cope with, And some people just don't know how to. So that's not really that good, but and there's a lot of very powerful people that are put in this role, and there's a lot of men that do domestic violence, and they're publicly respected and everything, and they're the ones doing the worst sometimes, and people can't believe it, and so they don't even assume. So police take forever to get to the house whenever the woman's getting beat. That's not good. I think that's about it. There's a lot of, in the law, there's a lot of subtle cases of discrimination. Usually it's not just open, flat out discrimination. It's usually below the text, and so that's one thing that, women struggle face. Anyways, next category was rape and sexual assault. So many times, which is ridiculous, rape is seen as the woman's fault. Like the rape, like they are the ones that got raped. Like especially a lot of guys trying to justify it with having clothes, sexual clothes that turn them on or something. It's just terrible. I mean, and that's looking at a woman as an object. But a lot of girls are fine with that and they want to do it, but that's terrible. That rape's the guy's fault. I mean the girl's fault. Sorry. Rape's the girl's fault. When you get raped, it just feels like, I don't know how it feels, but I've heard others describe it as like you don't have any control. Like you feel like you're just not worth it anymore, and I mean that's terrible for women's self-confidence. Awful, just straight awful. Louisiana, there's no rape kit given to women who have crimes within 5 years of the rape. That's kind of terrible. I mean, I don't exactly know what a rape kit is, I'll be honest, but I don't know what it includes in there, It's a guy, but okay, so it has kind of like some, okay, I got you. Find that dude and everything. Anyways, so yeah, a lot of them aren't, which is really bad. Southern states are really bad against women's rights, I'll be honest. Alabama's really, really, really bad. They want to start everything that's like anti-women. 50% of women, this is staggering, 50% of women are raped in their lifetime. So if you see two girls, odds are one of them has been raped in their life, which that's really bad. That's terrible. I can't even imagine. I mean, for me, I try to think, when I look at a girl like, this is somebody's daughter, this could have been my daughter. So you don't want to do anything wrong to somebody else's daughter. That's terrible. But 2% of rapists are actually convicted. That's ridiculous. Only 2%. 2%. So let's say we have 100 people. 50 of them get raped. No, let's do some easier math. There's 200 people. 100 of them get raped. Only 2 people are convicted. 2. So 100 people, only 2 of them are convicted. That's bad. Next, we're going to be going to pregnancy discrimination. So this is a big thing. So a lot of women go into labor, having children, unfairly treated against. Now, the argument for businesses is like, so they can't work right now, or they're limited. So why should we pay them fully? Because all corporate looks out for is money and profits. So they don't look at the people themselves, and that's one thing bad about big business. But anyways, that's one big thing. There was a case, Young versus UPS, and where she kept on putting up boxes and everything, and finally, when she had her baby, the baby died within 10 minutes of the birth. So that was not good. So it's actually kind of strange. So the women go through the struggle of having a kid, but men are actually, fathers are actually paid way more than mothers after that. It's fathers are seen as more of a stronger man now, just because they had a kid, but they didn't have to go really through anything, there was no struggle there. So that's kind of strange. Reproductive health care, birth control is not stable. What does that mean? So yeah, birth control is not very good for people. It's not always good. It always doesn't work. There's a Hobby Lobby case that we talked about. I don't really have too much on that one, but it was just good gender discrimination again. And then there was this quote by Rush Limbaugh. I'm not even going to be able to say the entire thing, but women that use contraceptions are, and you can fill in the blank there if you want to look up the quote, but it's some of these guys that are politicians and do like analyzing for their jobs are just looking at women in a terrible way. I mean, wow. Okay. Anyways, we're going to go to foster care and child sex trafficking. We kind of already talked on the child sex trafficking, but foster care is the pipeline for sex trafficking. Children are like, there's guys, old guys just going to schools, just trying to find children and trying to recruit them for sex, which is terrible. I mean, and now with social media growing so much, it's made it even easier for people to do that. This is a staggering stat. 92% of incarcerated women have been abused as a child. 92%. So we understand that. So out of 50% of the population is being raped, right, or abused. So out of that 50%, 92 of them. So basically, we have about 45% of women have been abused and incarcerated. That's crazy. And one thing that we talked about was pimps. Is that the same kind of thing? But pimps don't even pay their girls, which is kind of staggering. I mean, you would think they maybe got like 10% or something, but they don't get anything, and that's terrible, man. That's really bad. They at least deserve something. I mean, if they're gonna put their bodies out there and do that, that's something that needs to be addressed. I mean, we gotta find these pimps and just take them out, you know? I mean, it's terrible what they're doing to women. They're just making profit off other people. So it's just slavery right there. Again, that's all it is. Lastly, we talked about female incarceration. There's about 2 to 3 times more women incarcerated than men, which is kind of shocking when I heard that stat, because usually when you think of somebody in jail, you think of a man, or usually that's what you think about. And a lot of women are in there because of self-defense in cases of domestic violence. And I mean, you can't blame them. They're just trying to save their lives, you know? So that's just a tough subject to talk about, because, you know, you can't do anything about it. What are you going to do? I mean, you want to just die, you know? So, yeah, that's terrible. But lastly, equal but not the same. Same money for male and female sports is a thing that's been talked about. Now, one thing recently that's been talked about is the NBA and the WNBA and how they should be paid on the same scale. What many do not realize, though, is that actually women in the WNBA make more money based on their league salary than men in the NBA based on their league salary. You can't pay somebody $1 million when you're only making $5 million, you know? You can't pay, the whole league makes about, let me look up this right here. I don't even think they're making, the NBA is really supporting them, but revenue. Let's see. I'm ready to get the revenue reports from 2019 here. Or maybe not 2019. So we figured out that let's see. Let's find it. Come on. Here we go. Okay, so the revenue for the WNBA is $60 million. While the revenue for the NBA is $7.4 billion. Yes, that's a huge difference. A lot. I mean, that's ginormous. But let's look at this. So that's a big difference in price. So women are actually making, Stephen Curry at this time is making about $40 million a year, which is almost as much as the whole WNBA makes. But if you look at it, and this article doesn't actually show it, but that I'm looking at, I can link this to, that I'm looking at. But there's not many people that watch the WNBA, so their revenue is not that high. So their people can't get paid if they're not watching, So one thing that could happen is awareness for the sport. That helped them out a lot. It's been getting bigger. I know that this isn't the WNBA, but women's college basketball is going to have the first 2 rounds of the March Madness tournaments on ESPN, and that's a big thing for them because usually women's basketball doesn't get any coverage except the time that UConn went on their ridiculous win streak and the time that Brittany Griner was in college, because everybody said, oh, she's like a man. And so, yeah, that's about it. Just wanted to also add that all the issues make up an invisible web. All the issues that I talked about make up an invisible web that controls what women can do in society. The ERA is trying to break up this net, trying to just, use a machete or something to break it up. But anyways, this is Llama with the No Drama Llama podcast, and this was episode 1, Equal Means Equal. And thanks for watching, and if you like and subscribe, see ya.